groundwater basins. And they were on board with that. Now, do they understand measurable objectives in the same way I do? No, I wouldn't say that. And fortunately, they haven't looked as many hydrographs, right? They do other stuff with their time. I think, you know, we have 50 to 100 growers in the county that are following things pretty closely, and then we have other folks who probably are not. And we were working with Christine at the Farm Bureau to do a survey of growers to gauge their understanding of Sigma. I haven't seen the results yet.
I'm going to kick that between 4 and 5.
Well,
Because the people that need to understand it are the ones that understand it the least.
yeah, I would
And
say
at
that's
some point,
probably true up and down the valley.
someone's going to have a plan, and they may not like the plan, but it will get them to the table. But the time is running closer and closer.
Well, nothing brings people to the table like a potential fee. But I think this 3-step funding of starting with the flood agency, which is a problem for everybody, and then moving to the administrative fee exempt under Prop 26 that will allow us to have planning funds, since right now we're living off grant funds and a bit of the general fund, will give us the planning money that we need to do large-scale infrastructure. And there's good examples of this. United Water Conservation is one. There's Southern Arizona as well in the Abra Valley. So there's good models for this. But I don't know that all of the details of the GSA can be worked out in the next 6 weeks. I think we, especially since I was unfortunately the plan manager, have been focused on the plan.
I don't envy your position, your job.
No one does.
I'll be blatantly honest with you.
Understood.
Carl, I think this next 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever, left here, my fear is that I need enough detail to be comfortable to know that the county, being their second big dog in this deal, is being realistic in what we're presenting, and it has a chance of succeeding. And the biggest part of that program is this land reduction, or reduction in demand, whatever you want to call it, that I could see that your best laid plans, instead of taking 24 months to get to point A, it would be like and I hate to use this, the favorite program of all these fellow board members, called high-speed rail. They are way, way, way behind the deal, in that when I look at this draft up here, everything is going to move over 10 years. And that is my biggest fear. And I don't know how you overcome that, or how we overcome that, because if you got to go to a vote of people on some of this, which maybe we do, we probably do, what happens when they fail and you have to go back to the drawing board and start over? You know, that is my biggest fear about this whole thing. Our best laid plans that you can lay out may not succeed. And that's not going to be your fault. It's going to be all of us collectively that are living in this basin.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you raise your hand? Oh.
Well, I was trying to kind of do public comment as part of the public comment. So, I mean, maybe what would make people feel better is if there were some backup plans for all agencies that were kind of explicitly laid out. For example, what if you guys can't get as many people to take surface water as we're modeling? What is plan B? What if I cannot get financing through 218 to do large-scale infrastructure or to build a fund for land retirement? What's plan B? So I don't know that that piece is in there. I have chapter 4 on my desk now. But that seems like that might answer some of those questions.
Yeah, and I guess I would respond with, I think that we have Plan B already built into ours with the highly conservative numbers that we're using, and the overlap of projects and programs that we are planning on. So, I mean, again, if we fall into a 20-year drought starting in 2020, I think everybody's going to have to reassess their situation. But I think that, you know, MID is fairly comfortable in the way it sits today with the numbers and the assumptions that have been used for.
Right, I'm not saying you don't have a plan B. I'm saying it's not explicit in the plan, right?
Yeah, and I
Just
think,
like, and I think that's what Carl was saying, is he doesn't know what a fallback position is.
I
don't know
think that-
about a fallback, but I just know that as I look at big things like this, I can use Temperance Flat. They were talking about Temperance Flat when I sat at this place 20 years ago.
We're still trying to study it out.
yeah.
And so it makes this graph change.
And I think it's important right now for the agencies just to, let's focus on Plan A. Let's get Plan A with a lot of, you know, assumptions in place and start moving forward on it.
If I could comment, and not to speak for the board, but I think what it is a little more detail about the biggest project in Plan A, which would be the fan reduction. How will that be? How could it be? Or what's the initial plan on how to make that happen? Is it a full-on water market program for trading and exchange of crediting system, or is it a land use mechanism controlled by the county, or is it some other mechanism? There's a number of ways that that could take shape, but I think it's having a little more substance on what that could look like and how it will be implemented. I don't, again, not speak for the board, but that seems to be the issue here, is the numbers and the knowing it is stated at 2% or 3% per year, but how? And in what the first year in 2020, how will that happen?
Well, why don't we work on releasing chapter 4, where that is?
Great. I mean, because I think Tommy hit it on the head. Whatever, it's not for us to decide what, you know, the county plan is. But if you have a plan, tell us what, you know, the nuts and bolts of it, so at least we can move forward. I think that's it, exactly.
And I don't know that the board is looking for something specifically formed and this all created, but in general, the framework of what it may look like. And it could change, plans change, but at least the general concept that will be utilized to make that project successful.
I mean,
Make us
whatever
feel a
type,
little more comfortable about what to vote together to move forward.
And remembering that this board is representing a large group of growers who are accepting continued overdraft and are being impacted.
And domestic.
Any other comments from the other public? Yes.
Could I come up to the,
Sure.
That's great.
just so that everybody.
Yeah.
So my name is Madeline Harris. I work with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. We're a nonprofit that works with disadvantaged communities in the Central Valley and Eastern Coachella Valley. So I work with folks here in Madera County. I want to circle back to the questions that y'all were discussing around the minimum threshold and measurable objectives. While I realize that this is again an example, for the sake of discussing the concept and where we see visually the minimum threshold laid out, you know, recognizing the importance, as some of you mentioned, of protecting domestic wells and domestic users. That's something that's really important to the folks that our office works with. And then also recognizing the impacts that those drops in groundwater levels could have on groundwater quality, especially folks that are surrounded by farms that might be pumping a lot of water. So those are considerations that we urge you to take into account when you do make make that decision. And then I also did want to seek some clarity on how the individual GSAs and the joint GSP are making those, defining those sustainability criteria, so the threshold and the objective. How would,
That's what we're working on, trying to figure out.
okay, so MIDs versus the, Board of Supervisors.
Oh, no, it's not versus anything.
I think conceptually speaking, the goal is to have the entire subbasin in all GSAs, except, whatever the concept is from setting a measurable objective and a minimum threshold. Because again, these are gonna be monitoring wells dispersed throughout the subbasin. So
Right.
I think having the same concept to move forward is important, and I think that's the goal of the subbasin. So, but, and going back to your point on impacts, I think that's a really good point that we didn't really go into a lot of detail and clarify, but, when we talk about mitigation and such, when we talk about, impacts, it's not just the levels, right? It's all of the different, everything that goes with it, water quality, there's a lot of other factors to consider, and so, again, this is kind of just a visual look at how, and what's going to be presented as hydrographs in the GSP, but those are all things that need to be considered.
The other thought I would have for you, and I've seen you in a couple of meetings, it's not just quality of water, the depth of the domestic wells for those disadvantaged communities. What happens is we're also talking about jobs here in this community. So what happens to those disadvantaged communities if not only do they have water problems, but because a bunch of us go out of business, they lose their job too.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together. So it's not anybody, when you said versus, it's not anybody versus anybody.
Right.
It's us working to cooperatively together. Because along with your concern about those communities' water, you better be concerned about their jobs.
Definitely.
So that's just it.
Yeah, I appreciate that consideration, and I think, as some of you mentioned earlier, it will be interesting to get some clarity on the project and management actions in order to see, how what's been proposed thus far is going to play out in the modeling versus if some of those project and management actions were, put forward in time to a little bit sooner, what that would mean and, what that could mean for domestic well users while also considering the economy.
It's not only largely what happens here amongst farmers, it's other government agencies. And a perfect example is in the years 14 and 15, when there was no surface water that came through this district. It immediately affected the community of Parkwood. Most of us here have lived here all our lives, knew that when it was actually Parkwood was once out in the country, now it's adjacent to the city. But it immediately affected those people who had no clue as to why their water was gone. There was no recharge, which we lose a good 25% of the loss is due to recharge from the canals. That's what benefits that community. Okay, that's completely out of our realm that we lost that water by decisions by the Bureau of Reclamation. Okay, by their government made a decision that fish were more important than people. Okay, and we need help from our side to convey that. Okay, because it had a direct effect on that community.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And on one side they have no water, on the other side they have no job.
Well, I thank you for your decision-making authority as a GSA now moving forward, and I hope to be able to work with you all in conjunction with the community.
We are limited in our scope, but we could use help like your organization that branches out and can appeal from a different scope of interest.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, was that the last one? You got more?
That's the last one on that bullet.
I knew I should have pulled that out. Every time I do it,
Yes, we are now on the third bullet. We're going to ask the sort of things. Andrew, if we could go, I guess just back to the agenda. Okay, discussion only on developing a policy related to intensive water use in the MID GSA. So this was another item on the MID Groundwater Committee, and relates to is new demand, since MID is managing groundwater district-wide, managing as a district, we're not managing on a parcel by parcel basis. Right now, related to groundwater, we don't have a lot of oversight on individual parcels. There are interests and looking forward into the future of the potential for intensive water use industries and such to come into MID and start using quite a bit of groundwater. Obviously, there's a concern over that, particularly, water use above and beyond historic use within the district. And so, what we discussed at the MID Groundwater Committee meeting was developing a policy. This would only be related to new industries coming in. It would be limited to industrial, municipal, commercial. It would not be for ag, growing of crops, period, right? That's what we do. That's why,